Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. Welcome back to another week of fun chats. If you are new to the show, this podcast, which I host every single Sunday, is all about the lived experiences and stories of different sex workers from around the world. I mean, largely it is based in North America, and actually there's quite a few of you as well that are based in Europe, but I'm excited to bring on a guest all the way from New Zealand today. We're going to get into that pretty shortly, but just a quick little introduction. Again, if you're new, my name is Steph Sia. I am the host of the show. I am a stripper. I was a former sugar baby. I am also a digital content creator, and I do a lot of other amazing things that are non-sex work related. And I've been doing this show for the past couple of years because I really like it, and I think it's really important to share the stories of sex workers because I feel like a lot of the time in the media and other places, people get a different stereotypical narrative typically, and it's just usually not generally correct. So I really want to be able to destigmatize the industry in my own little way. So yeah, I've been doing this show for the past couple of years, and it's been great, and I really enjoy getting in touch and connecting with all of you listening around the world, whether you're a sex worker, maybe you are an ally, you're a civilian, maybe you're a client. The audience here is really, really diverse and awesome, and you guys are great. I don't shout out everyone a lot, so thank you so much for listening. But enough of me rambling. I really want to introduce this week's guest, and I'm also super, super, super excited about to chat about decriminalization, especially in New Zealand. So New Zealand is basically like the model that a lot of countries look towards in the decriminalization of sex work. So I'm really stoked to learn more about this topic. I have brought on a wonderful guest who's well-versed in this topic and who is a perfect person to bring onto the show. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the audience to Vixen Temple of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Vixen, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you as well. Thank you. What time is it over there right now?
It is 1:15 in the afternoon. My city, Tamaki Makaurau, is still in level 3 lockdown. So I'm just chilling in my partner's bedroom, vibing, talking to you, having a time. It's great.
Yay! It's going to be a great, really packed, jam-packed hour. We have a lot to discuss today. I'm super excited to get to know you and to have connected with you just really recently. I have heard of you before, so
I'm flattered. All bad things, I hope.
No, great things. I feel like we share similar circles, or at least we share a lot of mutual kind of sex working friends.
We have the same goal in mind of trying to destigmatize our industry. So go us.
Yeah.
We're just out here doing our best.
We're doing our best, exactly. I'm so excited to chat with you today. Also, quick little apology. I am sorry. There's a little bit of an issue with the sound today, so bear with us. The work here is, and what we're going to be talking about is really, really important. So please stick around. Vixen, I'd love to get to know you a bit better. I just know a little bit about you just from really brief stalking on the internet.
The online resume. I hope it looks good because I spend a lot of time on it.
I think so. I just feel like you are a person of many talents. You are a sex worker. You've done various forms of sex work, I think quite a bit, varied amount of sex work. You're also a writer. You're also a podcaster. You've done a lot of interviews in the media, which is really, really cool. And obviously, you're a huge advocate for sex work. So that's really what I think about you in a nutshell. But can you tell the audience about who you are and what it is that you do in your own words and in your own terms?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Tēnā koe. That's very sweet. Hearing you say that back, my imposter syndrome's like, whoa, what? I do all those things? That's really rad. Thanks. Thank you. I guess in my own words, hi, my name is Vixen Temple. I'm a Tamaki Makaurau-based sex worker, activist, podcast host, and performance artist. So I've worked as a stripper, sugar baby, escort, But with lockdown at the moment, I'm currently working online, which I'm really enjoying. Outside of that, when the world is resuming as per normal, quotation mark, I am a performance artist. I do drag, I do burlesque, I just love to do gender bent, gender's a social construct. I have a drag character, Bruce the strip club customer, who he's a satirical take on the classic strip club customers. His motto is, I'm not booking, I'm just looking. and Vixen. So there's lots of videos of him on my Instagram and YouTube channel, which I'll plug at the end. But I've also got Vixen Temple, who is a self-proclaimed feminist sex witch. I'm a pleasure witch. I sell sex toys. My focus is to really burn the patriarchy and help heal people from their trauma, which has a lot of it has come from patriarchy and white supremacy and misogyny. I really want to burn that shit, burn the patriarchy, and
burn the motherfucking patriarchy.
The fucking patriarchy, and dance naked on the ashes with all of us beautiful humans. And that's really, I guess, the basis of what I do. I entered the sex work industry back in 2018, right before Foster and Sister was implemented. I started online, and then Foster Sister came in and just ruined that for me. So I started stripping, and then it all evolved from there, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So you do a lot of things. Amazing. I can't believe I forgot to mention all of your performance art. I am so sorry.
Oh, don't worry. I forget about all that because I haven't done it for a hot minute. But I'm very excited next year in January. My theatre company that I work through, that my friend Nocturnus runs, Nocturne Sanctum, is putting on a sex work variety show, all sex workers. Very, very exciting to be headlining that. I have a ritual that I'm going to host where we're going to banish swerves, banish misogyny, and we're all going to just scream and be excited about celebrating and elevating sex workers.
Yes, I think that's an amazing initiative and like so cool. Like, yes, please plug the link and give us all the information at the end of the show. Like, we'd love to.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry. It's going to be good. I'm very excited for it.
So going back to you, because the topic is about you. I mean, we really want to hear a little bit more about like, your foray into sex work. You mentioned you started in 2018, and like how is sex work like transformed you? Because I know that sex work is always, it plays a huge part in most of our lives, I would say, and because like, I mean, with any job, we spend a lot of time at work, right? And sex work is no exception, right? Yeah. Do you want to go a little bit into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I entered the industry online. I started off with a private Snapchat. I used to be a cosplayer, so I would cosplay characters, and of course that got all the nerdy boys coming in. I was a Harley Quinn cosplayer. I had men thirsting over me, so I thought, you know what? I'm a broke uni student. I was in my last year of uni studying a Bachelor of Arts in Film Media Theatre, and I thought, okay, I want to make money. I'm sick of being poor. I have celiac disease. I have mental health problems. I can barely work and study and support my life. Like, I need extra money. What am I going to do? Okay, I'll get my tits out. Made a Snapchat, got people to send me money, made enough money. I was making bank. Like, I don't mean to brag, but like, damn, I was making money, and I was really proud of myself. And having grown up, in a lower middle class family with a single mom, it was like, wow, I have money. This is crazy. I've never had this much money in my life before. And then Foster Sister came along, and my accounts got deleted. My PayPal was being watched over. I was getting in trouble. I was being naughty stripper. I mean, sex worker. So as a result of that, I became a stripper. I needed to make more money, and I love performing. I graduated university. I was working a retail job. I got pregnant, had an abortion, had a quarter life crisis of like, what am I doing? I've just graduated university. I'm working retail. I hate this. I'm miserable. I'm severely overworked. I'm severely exploited. I was an assistant manager. I was working overtime, underpaid. I was miserable. I was returning home from work, severely depressed. I was getting quite suicidal. I was at a low point in my life.
Yeah.
And I started stripping, and it really pulled me out of that. It made me. It just made me aware of so many things about myself. Like, my whole life I've been a people pleaser.
Right.
And I guess that's the the side effect of growing up as a woman in this patriarchal society. I've always been a people pleaser. I'm terrible at establishing boundaries. Through sex work, especially stripping, I've learned how to say no to people, how to establish boundaries, how to stop being a people pleaser and instead please myself. And that's been very, very important for me.
Yeah.
So I started stripping, I started doing sugar babying, I started writing about my experiences within the industry because I was really sick of always seeing sex work written from the perspective of people who are not in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's always this, oh, how do we save those poor sex workers? And, oh, we must make it illegal. Oh, we must do this and that. They're victims of the male gaze, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting here like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of like, I know that sex work's not empowering for everyone. It's a job. It's a job. But like, I don't need to be saved from this. I need to be saved from capitalism and my mental health and like my poorness, my like broke lifestyle that I can't.
Totally.
my mental illnesses and my diseases that I cannot afford to have. That's why I got into sex work. Like, I don't need saving from sex work. I need saving from the world, really. So I just got really sick of seeing those sort of articles. So I started writing my own. I had an article published through Fembot magazine. It was something along the lines of, I chose to become a stripper and people hate that I love it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much just, I noticed a lot of the time customers coming in asking me, oh, how did a pretty thing like you end up in a place like this?
Oh, we've heard it all before.
Yeah, we heard it all before. And, you know, I started getting snarky with them, like, oh, I could say the same thing to you. Or, oh, well, if it's bad that I'm here, what does that say about you? That sort of thing. But, like, they were always so shocked when I would say to them, like, oh, I liked performing. I wanted a job I could get paid to perform because I have a theatre degree.
Yeah.
And this seemed perfect. And yeah, I just started writing about that. Made a blog, Vixen Temple blog, that over time gained a bit of a following on Instagram. But unfortunately, in April of this year, it was shut down by censorship because I made a post about how sex work is not consent, and it got deleted for hate speech.
What? Yeah, okay, that's what I'm wondering. I remember seeing your Instagram account, and that's where I was like, oh, that's why like I kind of know, like, well, I don't know you, but like I was like, oh, I used to follow that before. And I was like, oh, like what happened to that? I was like, is this the same like Vixen Temple blog? Like I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh my god.
No, my page. So if you're listening to this and you ever followed Vixen Temple blog on Instagram, because it got a large following over the 2 years that I had it. It's gone. It got deleted. I had nothing. I couldn't repel it. I couldn't request, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
I woke up one day, the whole Instagram was gone. You know, this is hate speech, talking about the time I was assaulted by a customer and just saying like, hey, sex work isn't consent. That got my whole page shut down. So since then, I've been doing a lot of advocacy. Activism. Coffee brain. Activism in regards to online censorship. Having been the victim of censorship, losing my 2 years worth of work, 2 years worth of my mahi just gone.
God, I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you. Yeah, and it did have an impact on my mental health, just feeling silenced.
Yeah.
For talking about something that was really traumatizing for me, and just frustrated by how I can't do anything. I just had to sit in my room and just let this power be taken away from me. I felt like my voice was being taken from me, and I had a moment where I thought about just deleting all of my social medias and just disappearing, and I thought, no, that way they win. Yeah, they would win. Exactly. And I can't let that happen. I can't let them silence me, because our voices are important. And I may just be a 25-year-old living in Aotearoa, you know, just vibing, doing my own thing, just trying to get through each day. But like, I have a lot to offer the world, and I know that as a sex worker, and we all do. We as sex workers have a lot to offer the world, and being an out of the closet sex worker, I do feel it's my responsibility to use my platform and my privilege as a white woman to advocate for our rights as sex workers, because we are a marginalized community. And I'm very, very grateful through my community that I've been able to reach out to people like you and connect to other sex workers all over the world who have the same goal as me, just to elevate our voices and to show the world that we're not these harlot, money-hungry, you know, home wreckers. Like, we're just humans trying to get by and survive, and pay our bills and feed our cats and, you know, live in this capitalist hellhole.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Like, Vixen, I can really hear the passion coming through your voice. I just want to let you know that now. Like, it's it's just really hard to hear when I hear stories like this. Like, when you just feel like completely ousted like that, and nothing was your fault. You didn't do anything.
That's been the hardest thing. I it's out of my control, and having being diagnosed with PTSD, it's a huge trigger of mine, is feeling that things are happening out of my control,
Right.
and that I have nothing I can do to stop it. And just waking up to my Instagram being deleted, and I tried to email them. All of my followers were sending complaints.
Yeah, I remember
reporting it as
that.
an issue, and I just got an email from them being like, the page has been deleted. We can't get it back. And I'm like, I don't know. There's one thing I've been told a lot since becoming a sex worker online, is that once something's on the internet, it's there to stay. So I beg to fucking differ.
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg, or whatever his name is. I don't care to marking Mark, whatever. I don't know his name.
Zuckerberg.
That guy. Zuck, okay, I got Zuck. I'm angry about it. Fuck that guy. Fuck the patriarchy.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's like incredibly infuriating and really frustrating, and I'm really, really sorry that happened to you. But I, as you said, like being able to share your story, not just with this sole instance, but just being able to advocate for what is right is hugely important, because, as you mentioned, we are a hugely, hugely marginalized group of people. So I am so grateful that you're here to share your expertise with the audience, because we're going to be talking all about decriminalization and the New Zealand model today, which I'm really excited for, because, as I mentioned, like New Zealand is like the country that everyone looks towards is in terms of sex work. But also, I guess, like with other things too, like it's kind of just like been a leader in terms of progression. Like, for example, like how you're dealing with COVID is really admirable. You know, having a woman prime minister is also hugely admirable. Like lots of things like that. But obviously, with the topic of today, the focal point today, it being the topic of sex work. Oh my god, I'm the one who's rapping today.
Right, we're coming at you from different time zones. We're doing our best.
Your best. Yeah, so like it's really interesting, because New Zealand is like the only country in the world where sex work is decriminalized, and it's just really so cool and admirable. Like a country really just aiming to uphold the human rights of sex workers.
Oh yes, and when you know the history behind it too, it's even more powerful and beautiful when you see, I'll go into it as we talk more, but the history behind it is strong. I feel it should be taught in schools. It's really empowering.
Yeah, I mean, if now is a good time, why don't we go into that? Because I know, I just know, like, my really brief Spark Notes version of like decrim.
Awesome. Well, I can go over it with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Let's go.
Let's go. History Hour with Vixen Temple. So we have an organization here in Aotearoa called the New Zealand Prostitute Collective.
Right.
One thing I would like to note first is that while sex work has been decriminalized within Aotearoa, it is not decriminalized for migrant workers. So when they were putting it forward to the government, they sort of had to take the offer. It was very much we'll let citizens do it, but not migrants, because obviously sex trafficking, and I'll go into that more further down.
Oh my gosh.
They correlate the two. So they could decriminalize it for citizens, but not migrants. So I just wanted to note that it is decriminalized if you're a citizen.
Okay.
So that is where I have the privilege.
Okay.
As a white passing Māori woman, I recognize my privilege within this industry.
Right.
But going back to so New Zealand Prostitutes Collective.
Okay.
So sex work was decriminalized in Aotearoa in 2003. Right. Prior to that, it was very much what you hear about in other countries, especially what I hear about a lot in America. If you read the book Revolting Prostitutes,
okay,
the police raids were awful, and they were really targeting trans women by the looks of my research. I spoke with Catherine Dame Healy from New Zealand Prostitutes Collective on my podcast, which I'll plug at the end, but she is the founder of NZPC. It was an honor to speak with her.
Okay.
And the work that they had to do back in 1987, it was just a group of these, so back in the 80s, sex work had to be disguised as, massage parlors and all that sort of thing.
Right.
So the masseuses were all meeting in private houses, and they were joined by street workers and trans and non-trans women coming in. They wanted to discuss starting a union. They were sick of the police raids. They were sick of especially, you know, targeting the trans woman, it was as easy as you got condoms in your bag, you know, you're a sex worker, you're being arrested. And I can't even imagine how terrifying that is. Speaking to Catherine Healy about it, the fear of police raids, that's something having never worked in a criminalized state of sex work, I will never know that fear. I will never, and I want to acknowledge that. It must be so scary.
Yeah.
And if you are listening to this in a country where that is a fear of yours, I'm so sorry, because that's a fear I've never had. So, and it's because of NZPC, they were sick of the police raids. So, yeah, back in the 80s, they all joined together privately to have these chats like, right, what are we going to do?
That's so cool.
And they knew that they had to get, you know, like the World Health Organization behind them. They had to get proof that by decriminalizing sex work, it was actually going to be beneficial for the community. And the way that they went at that was through the focus on HIV and AIDS prevention. Because during the 80s in Aotearoa, as it was in most countries, there was the AIDS crisis. And of course, there's always that narrative that sex workers are dirty. And it's like, well, actually, if we bring in legislated laws, we could make it a law that you have to use condoms, and that is a requirement. So you noted that you saw in your research there's a big focus on safe sex. That's a big thing that they really wanted to advocate. So they worked on this for you know, about 2 decades. They were together working with the Ministry of Health to try prove that it would actually be beneficial for sex work to be decriminalized. And it wasn't until 2003 you know, they spent all that time publicly advocating for the decriminalization of sex work. They were going around Parliament, you know, speaking to MPs and speaking to them, trying to, you know, just sway their opinion and like, hey, well, I guess it's hard to sway politics opinions, but just trying to go in there with an alternative view of it. You know, we're not these dirty, evil. We're just working people, and by having all these laws in place, you're actually preventing us from being able to have safety and have work rights. And
do our job.
There's this and during the Parliament presentation on whether it should be decriminalized or not, there was a very powerful speech by a woman who was a former sex worker who was raped at knife point. A very powerful speech about how, you know, she said, I shouldn't have had to take the laws in my own hands. I should have been able to go to the police and had that man prosecuted for what he did to me, but I wasn't allowed to because I was just a sex worker. And it's a very powerful speech, and it left the whole room just in utter silence. And I believe that speech by that strong wahine was one of the reasons that it got legislated. So that it got decriminalized. So it was very close. I think the vote was 60 to 59. It was that close, but it was because of the work of NZPC, because of our trans sex work community, because of the advocacy that they all did, that we were able to decriminalize sex work here in Aotearoa. And they saw, you know, after a few years, many groups tried to come along and change it again. There was a group of some Christian,
of course, it's
some Christians, yeah, they were, what were they called, some hope organization based thing, and they were trying to change the laws and you know, say no, sex work is wrong. But we have it backed up. The decriminalization of sex work is advocated by the United Nations, by the World Health Organization, by Amnesty International, and sex work-led organizations from throughout the world. And if you look at, you know, you take a look at the statistics, you speak with sex workers who were around during the decriminalization over this time, it did become easier for them to go to the police. You know, this customer, he just took me in his car. He's not paying me. Police come along. Hey, you have to pay the worker. They provided you a service. It is, you know, that's how it works here. So essentially, how it looks and how it operates within Aotearoa, as I mentioned, you do unfortunately have to be a citizen. So if you are here working on a holiday or working visa, if you get caught doing sex work, you will be deported. But I would like to note that NZPC supports you regardless of your age, regardless of your citizenship, race, sexuality. If you are a sex worker, NZPC will support you. So in New Zealand, it is legal. It is completely legal to operate, own, and make money off sex work. You can operate your own brothel if you want. I believe that you can work with up to 4 sex workers Any more than that, you have to register as a brothel, which you can get through the you get that through the Auckland City District or something. You apply through that,
Right.
and you can work off the streets. You can work from home. You can work through a building. You can work independently. You can work through a company.
Amazing.
Pimping is illegal. You cannot be a third party profiting off the full profits off someone. They have to profit too. So pimping is fully illegal.
Good.
But you can, off the age of 18, legally make and live off money that you gained and obtained through sex work. There are laws and policies in place to prevent, work discrimination. Like you can't really not hire someone in Aotearoa because of their history of being a sex worker. I'm sure it happens, but it's I'm sure it happens. It's not a law, but it's definitely a policy that you can go to NZPC, you can go to Work and Income and say, hey, I'm being
discriminated or
targeted for being a sex worker. Yeah, I guess the thing that I like to empathize. Sorry. The thing that I like to really preach about.
There you go.
The thing I like to really preach about decriminalization of sex work is that it just provides safety.
Yes.
It provides resources. We can go to the police when things go wrong, but when people know that we can't go to the police, that's why they target sex workers. That's why there are so many serial killers that target sex workers, because where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Where are they going to go? They can't go to the police. They get arrested.
Yeah.
This man tried to rape me, but you're a sex worker, so you get arrested.
Exactly.
Awful.
Yeah.
So when you look at Aotearoa, look, we're far from perfect. We have a long way to go. The stigma is still negative, but I will recognize that in regards to how I see my sex worker whānau from other countries treated, we do have it a lot easier here. The fact, it was a privilege, as much as he wasn't punished fairly, it was a privilege that I was able to take the customer that assaulted me to court. It was taken seriously by the police. They arrested him. They prosecuted him. They charged him. They went to a sentencing trial. Unfortunately, the lawyer brought up my job, and tried to defend it as that. That stigma is still there. But within the justice system, I was able to process that and charge that man for assaulting me, whereas in another country that I wouldn't have been able to do that.
No, because in Canada we have the Nordic model here, and that is problematic on so many other levels. So basically, again, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast quite a bit, but the selling of sex is criminalized, but then the purchasing of sex is not. So that to me just seems really backwards, or
so backwards. It doesn't make any sense. It just puts the sex workers at a higher vulnerable state. It puts them at such higher risk of being taken advantage of being exploited. And that's another really great thing about the law here in Aotearoa, is that it specifies that at any given point of the service, the worker is allowed to revoke their consent. Just because the person has paid, it does not mean that they have purchased consent. And at any given moment, you're allowed to revoke consent. And if the person continues, it's rape.
Right.
There's also laws, as I mentioned, we're very big on advocating for safe sex. So NZPC hands out free condoms, free oral condoms, sex condoms, everything. They have free health clinics for sex workers to come in. They've been handing out free vaccinations for sex workers with COVID.
That's amazing.
It's amazing the mahi they do and the work they provide and the resources they give out, and how they're allowed to be public about it and open about it, and it's not something that has to be done in secret.
Right.
NZPC works with the government to keep continuing to make sure that sex workers in New Zealand are being looked after and are being protected and do have fair working conditions, which I would argue most of us don't. Strip club managers really take advantage of us, but we at least have a platform, a union to go to, that if it gets really bad, we can run to them and say, hey, we're being exploited and we need help, we need justice, and they're there to back us up.
Well, the fact that you even have support and you have resources that you can freely go to is already a huge step in the right direction. I'm envious of that. And I also want to mention too, to define sex work in New Zealand, sex work is defined as the exchange of sex, like physical sex, for payment. So when I was doing my research on this episode, stripping and phone sex, they're not considered sex work, but sugaring is, escorting is, etc.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, just wanted to define that in case anyone's like, oh well, what is that supposed to be done there? So that's
I guess in Aotearoa, it's very similar to other countries. Sex work is a very umbrella term for anything. It covers a wide range of just selling the illusion of intimacy, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Or the fantasy, sexual illusion, whether it's stripping, escorting, dominatrixing, sugar babying,
Yes.
Massage parlor, phone sex operator, online sex work, whatever it is, NZPC will support you. And I don't think enough sex workers in Aotearoa know about NZPC, and it's why I advocate for them so much. They are amazing, and it's one of those things that I think because of the internet and social media and TikTok and all that, we see a lot of young people entering the industry.
Yeah.
And entering it with really no idea of safety measures, of their rights.
Yeah.
And I really try to, when I hear people entering the industry, I try to say, hey, look up Aotearoa New Zealand Sex Work Collective, please. Know your rights.
Yeah.
On their website, it has all of the laws that us sex workers have. It emphasizes that if a client removes a condom, they can be fined up to $2,000. In fact, a sex worker won a case earlier this year, I think in Christchurch, where she sued a client who removed the condom, and she got I think $2,000 or something from it.
Wow.
He was fined, so it's taken very seriously. You do not take advantage of us. And unfortunately, like I said, there's still the negative stigma. There's always going to be people that look down on us, especially because I think we're just viewed through the patriarchal lens of being a only woman's business. And of course, any labor that woman is doing is considered unnecessary. We're dismissed as just the mothers, the house cleaners. Any service that a woman provides is dismissed. So when you look at the sex work industry as being largely dominated by women, which it is, I will say that, because our demographic is largely heterosexual men.
Okay.
But when you look at how it's largely women doing it, I think that's why people hate us so much, because they're like, oh, it's a woman's work. But man, I do not know many female sex workers. We're all trans, non-binary, badasses. It's very rare that I know a cis woman is a sex worker, but it's just how it is. It's how it is here. So yeah, there's still a lot of toxic masculinity in this country where men, I wouldn't date a sex worker. Like, well, they wouldn't date you, Brad.
Yeah, exactly. Who asked for your opinion?
Yeah, no one asked, no one cares. Sorry that you're single. Do you want to go for a lap dance?
It's gonna be me tonight. The club.
Yeah, you can be with me tonight, and then when your wallet's empty, you can leave.
You can leave. I wanted to go quickly. I want to go back to the notion that the law here, the decriminalization of sex work, applies just to citizens of New Zealand, which I thought was really interesting. I actually want to share a story. So,
please do. I love stories.
Yeah. So, and this kind of makes sense to me now. So basically, when was this? Back in 2018, I actually went to New Zealand. Yeah. I went to Wellington with a girlfriend of mine.
Wellington. Love Wellington.
So much fun. It was lovely. I had such an amazing time. It was great. It was just a little bit tricky to get in for me. So basically, I'm Canadian. So let me tell you the story. So I think I might have shared this a long time ago on the podcast, but yeah, I was coming from, where was I coming from? Fiji. And I was coming into New Zealand, and my girlfriend was going to come pick me up. We had this whole thing. We're going to go out for dinner, all this stuff. And then, so like immigration, I'm not sure what flagged them on my passport or something, but I guess they like Googled me and saw that I used to be a sugar baby. And then, this whole thing happened. I was taken into questioning. For like 4 hours. I missed my flight, like my connecting flight from like Auckland to Wellington. And they just kept asking me all these questions, like if I was planning to sugar there. And this was like years, like at least 5 years after I had stopped sugaring. And they just were questioning me. They were really nice about it. Like, they were all nice about it, but I just was really traumatized by it. I was crying. It was like not a good
I am
time.
so sorry.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for sharing that, because that is exactly what we were talking about. I interviewed the president of the Migrant Workers Association here in Aotearoa, and she was speaking about that, how the Immigration New Zealand can be very racist. Surprise, you know, she says that Europeans come in and they don't get hassled as much as Asians or
Yeah.
Indigenous folk, and I think it's really disgusting to hear that. And
Yeah.
sex workers, especially, and sex workers, you know, if you're coming in here and you have anything on your social media that looks dodgy or anything, yeah, they can question you and they can deport you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that happened to you. That must have been so scary.
It was super scary, because then, like, it was really bad too, because I hadn't seen my girlfriend in a long time, because she used to work in Canada, and then she's from New Zealand, so she moved back. And
oh, cool, Kapai, I love that.
yeah, it was really nice. Like, we were really good friends. We were like total like like partners in crime when she was up here in Canada, and I was like, oh, I'm really making my way down to New Zealand. I told you I'd come and visit, and then she like only uses Facebook Messenger to communicate, so I didn't have her phone number, so everything just looked super sus and like sketchy. And I'm like, I don't have her phone number. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm staying at this Airbnb and blah blah blah. Like, it just, everything looked really bad.
They're like, yeah, sure you are. Oh, I'm so sorry. That must have been so awful. But that's exactly it. So in Aotearoa, you can, you know, if you are a migrant, if you come over here on a working visa, yeah, if you're caught, you risk being deported, and that would be terrifying. And, you know, as I learned speaking with the president of Migrant Workers Association, it is very expensive to get to New Zealand, as it is every country.
Hella expensive.
But yeah, exactly. And when you're a migrant to a country, you come to that country in debt.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to pay off that debt? I don't know. Why not sex work? It's a very quick way to pay off debt. I think we can all agree on that. And it's frustrating that in order to get to these countries, they have to spend all this money, but then they're not provided the same rights that us citizens are to earn money. And I just don't understand. I think it's a double standard. If you are here in Aotearoa on a working visa, why are you not given the same working rights as the citizens? You are here to contribute to our economy. They should have every right to contribute through sex work, because that way, if it's decriminalized for them, they can pay taxes. They can go to the police when things go wrong. Because here's the thing. The reason they have against decriminalizing migrant sex workers, they're afraid that the migrants are at higher risk of being trafficked. But when you don't let them have the rights to, when you don't let them have the rights to go to the police when things go wrong, that's how they get trafficked. So it's so backwards. It literally makes no sense.
And it's really infuriating, because, like, unfortunately, it's a similar tune that's played here in Canada, and as well as like America in the States too. Like, migrant workers are just not represented at all. They're treated even lower, if it's even possible. But they're
I know, if it's even possible, they're treated like scum.
Yeah,
it's awful, and it's one of the problems that we have here in Aotearoa. You know, we are a progressive country, but the racism here is disgusting, and there is a lot of toxic masculinity and a lot of misogyny within this country. So, you know, you're a sex worker, that sucks. Throw in being a migrant sex worker on top of that, you know, you're screwed. You've got no one to advocate for you. However, you do have NZPC. Like I said, regardless of your age, of your citizenship status, NZPC is there for you. So if you're listening to this and you're in Aotearoa and you're doing sex work and you're not 18, or, you know, you're a migrant and you're very secretive about it, you do not have to give your legal name. It's all anonymous. If you want to go to NZPC and talk to someone, completely anonymous. There will be no trace of you having ever been there. So they are there for you. Yep, and they are trying to change these laws. They had to, of course, take what they could get at the time back in the 2003s.
Of course.
But times are changing, and conversations are starting. And we need to have these conversations so that the laws can maybe one day be changed, and the migrants, people can work here in New Zealand and as migrant sex workers and be able to go to the police when customers fucking assault them, because they do. They target the migrants because they know they don't have any rights.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I kind of wanted to go into as well, since you've done such a great job explaining everything in like minute detail. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm a Gemini rising. It's one of my
There you
skills.
go.
I know how to go into great detail.
It's perfect, especially for the show. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to hear, like, if you want to share in any capacity, like, what has been the impact, if you know, within your own research too, since the law, I guess the New Zealand Prostitution Act, I think Prostitution Reform Act,
Yep.
since that's been acted, have you heard of any improvements or what the impact has been at all, if any?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, once it was decriminalized, suddenly sex workers were able to go to the police. Now, I can understand. I imagine that at the start, that must have been a very awkward, hostile situation, because you've spent years not trusting the police. You've spent
Yeah.
years hiding from the police. The trauma that these sex workers still have to this day, that they're going to have a client that's an undercover cop and be arrested, it must be endless, and you must never be able to take away that. You know, I have PTSD. It doesn't go away. You just have to learn to live with it, unfortunately. And so I can imagine that at first it must have been a weird transition to go from being terrified of the police to suddenly, oh, I can turn to them.
Yeah.
So I imagine that must have been weird for a while,
For sure.
especially for marginalized sex workers, trans sex workers, Indigenous sex workers. I know that here in Aotearoa, Polynesian and Māori folk experience awful racism.
Yeah.
As Indigenous folk do in every colonized country.
Absolutely.
But I can assure you that decriminalizing it has, as I mentioned, I was able to take a customer to court. We are able to, you know, every time I see a newspaper article about the sex worker that fined a customer for removing the condom, that would never happen in a country where it didn't have the decriminalization.
Yeah.
And what's frustrating is what I've been doing with my advocacy is that I live in a country where, as a citizen, I legally am allowed to do sex work, but because of foreign policies such as foster sister in America, I can't exist on the internet and do sex work.
Right.
Like, I can go on the street and I could give a man a blowjob for cash, and that's fully legal. But the second I post about it on the internet, like, I'm breaking a law in another country and I get censored. And it's so frustrating because I'm here in a country where it's dead ass legal to do what I do. I can't do it on the internet, and that's extremely frustrating. And that's why I'm always advocating against foster and sister and trying to make people aware that by making something illegal, it doesn't make it go away.
No.
It just makes it dangerous. It's about harm reduction. Underground. It's about being able to manage what's going on. And within Aotearoa, you can see that because NZPC works with the government, we're able to have somewhat of a healthy relationship where it's not going in the dark. If something is a taboo, if something gets othered, there's no way to monitor it. There's no way to manage it. There's no way to, you know, it's like the war on drugs. It just becomes dangerous. It's like the abortion laws.
Exactly.
It doesn't stop them. It just makes backyard abortions a thing. You criminalize sex work. It's not going to stop it. It's just people are going to be having unsafe sex. They're going to be in higher risks of being trafficked. You decriminalize it. Now we're not. Customers come to us knowing that we can turn to the police if they do something wrong.
Right.
Having that power is very important as a sex worker.
It's paramount.
It must be terrifying being a sex worker in a country knowing that the customer knows that he has full power over you because you have nowhere to go. Here in New Zealand, here in Aotearoa, I know at the back of my mind, especially as a white woman, that I can get help.
Yes.
I can get help.
Wow. That's so powerful. I just wanted to share, I actually did some research earlier this year, and I was working with the Youth Coalition, and they organized a focus group, which I co-facilitated with Salome Salvi, who has been on the show a couple times.
Amazing.
Yeah, we co-facilitated a focus group with youth sex workers from all around the world, a lot of them from different countries in Africa, Sweden, Philippines, and stuff. And the overwhelming response was, we want the New Zealand model.
Yep.
that was like a risk.
We want that for you too.
Yeah, it was just amazing. It was just like, as we mentioned throughout the episode today, like they were in so many countries like Uganda and Kenya, just speaking about like how work there is outlawed, and it makes it really, really difficult to live and for them to even do their job. And as mentioned earlier, it just makes their jobs incredibly risky to conduct. But then
when your job is illegal, you have no working rights.
Yes.
That is just terrifying. That's just a terrifying concept to me as someone that's never had to operate as a sex worker where it's been legalized. And it's something that when I talk to sex workers in other countries, there's that block that I can't relate to them, because I am in a country where like I said, I could right now stand outside on my front porch, I could go walk down the street, get paid for a blowjob, and I'm not breaking any laws.
You're allowed to do that.
I'm allowed to do that. I can go do that right now. I'll take you all with me. Let's go suck a dick for cash. and let's not get arrested for it. And it's so sick and sad that there are countries that I couldn't do that.
No.
And that people can't do that. Like, what the hell? It's one of the things that NZPC was advocating during the 80s and the 90s. It was trying to get that message across. It's our body.
Yeah.
And we should have the right to choose whether someone, like, it's our consent, it's our body, it's our right to choose how we profit, how we make money. And when you forced us into this world where we all have to pay to exist, let us have the right to choose how we pay to exist.
Absolutely.
And for some of us,
bodily autonomy.
It's sex work.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone should have the right to choose what they want to do with their body, how they want to make money. Like these are just like basic human rights.
It is, and I don't understand people that think it's a personality trait to be against people doing stuff to their body that doesn't affect them at all.
No.
Like, get a hobby, get a life. No. It must be so boring. Karens and swerves. I'm like, girl, have a wank. It's okay. Shit. Like, we're not here destroying the economy in the world. In fact, in many ways, I view sex workers as heroes of the community. We're working up close and personal with people in the community who, you know, we work with people who have never been touched, people who have severe trauma from their childhoods, and we get to help them with that. And of course, I didn't become a sex worker to help people. I became a sex worker to make money. But I realized after a few weeks in the industry of like, wait, I'm actually helping people. This is really beautiful. And as someone that, you know, I'm quite an empathetic person. It can be a lot. I get quite overwhelmed in strip clubs. I'm very much a sponge of people's energies.
Yeah.
But when I learned how to compartmentalize that, I was able to go in and I don't know, in many ways I feel like that sex workers are healers. I believe that we're sacred connections to the divine goddess. Whether you're a man, woman, NB, you know, the feminine and the masculine, it's genderless. And I view sex workers as very sacred, very spiritual gods and goddesses and deities that should be celebrated and honored, and instead we're shunned by society. And it's such a shame, because we have so much to give the world. We're really not bad people, eh? Like, we're just trying our best, as we all are.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. And to close this part of the episode, because we're going to go into some Q&A after this, I will say, because I found it during my research too, there was a report of the Prostitution Law Review Committee back in 2008, so just 5 years after the PRA was enacted. And it said here, the Prostitution Law Review Committee concluded that the decriminalization has improved the occupational health and safety of sex workers. And quote, it says, the Prostitution Reform Act has had a marked effect in safeguarding the rights of sex workers to refuse particular clients and practices, chiefly by empowering sex workers by removing the illegality of their work. So it's just, again, like, just amazing what this model looks like and what this can look like. And like a lot of so many of these countries, we really, as I mentioned earlier, we look up to the New Zealand model. So thank you so much, Vixen, for sharing all of your information today and explaining everything.
Oh, hey, tēnā koe for letting me talk about it. As I said to you before we started recording, I really want more people to learn about the history of decriminalization of sex work in Aotearoa. And if you aren't in Aotearoa, you know, start start talking about this with your friends, and you can see what it looks like to decriminalize. Have these conversations with your community, whether you're a sex worker or not. If you're listening to this as an ally, as a client, like, we need you especially to advocate for us, because people don't always listen to us as sex workers, unfortunately. So we would appreciate the advocacy. So, you know, and I'm assuring you, as someone that operates in a country where it's decriminalized, and as I mentioned, like, I have this mental block where I can't relate to people that have been arrested and have that fear of the police, and it's such a privilege that I want to extend to the whole world. We deserve it. And I just want to conclude this section with a quote from the Human Rights Commission back in 2001. They said, recognition that sex work is labor and not a criminal activity allows public policy to focus upon human rights, health and safety issues, and fair working conditions within the industry. And that's, I think, just the best way to summarize why decriminalization is the best. Is the best way forward. Oh, I know, right?
I just had to. Like, that was amazing. That was a perfect end quote for this section.
Oh, thank you. I went to university. I know how to bullshit quotes at the end of a thing to make me sound smart.
You and I both.
Yep. That's what they teach you at uni.
Exactly. There's just a few questions that came in for you, Vixen. I guess.
Hello. Yes,
yeah. So this one came in on Instagram. So it came from user Galigo Smash. Hello. And thank you for listening and submitting questions. The question that he has was, would decriminalization affect prices for patrons?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's a question. I suppose I don't know how it works within other countries. I guess especially in regards to escorting, if you're going to clients that pick their own prices, I think it would. I think clients would feel safer to raise their prices. Not clients, sorry. The workers would feel safer to raise their prices, because one thing that I noted here in Aotearoa is, once it was decriminalized, people felt safer to say, no, these are my set rates, and people weren't bartering them as much because they're no longer desperate. You can be a bit more pickier about your clients when it's decriminalized, right? So I do think, yes, it would affect the prices. And I'm sure as a client, you're not wanting to hear that. You're probably wanting it to stay the same. But if you're a good client, you'll want to pay whatever the service is asking for, because it'll be worth it. Because, it's a privilege to be able to pay to have sexual services. So pay what they're asking, or find someone that has the prices that you want. Just please don't barter us.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, that was a very good question.
That was a good question.
I was like, oh, I have to think about that one for a second. Damn, that caught me off guard.
Yeah, there are always questions I'm like, oh, this is really, really interesting. And like, I have to take a moment, take pause.
So thank you for that question. That was awesome.
Perfect. Next question. Also came from Instagram. This person wants to remain anonymous. So the question is, how can new sex workers find ways to connect with other sex workers?
Oh, yes. Now, it was so much easier back in the day before Foster and Sister, because, there used to be websites where you could backlist bad clients. There were whole communities dedicated to sex workers being able to reach out to each other. These days, I would highly recommend Twitter. Make an anonymous sex work account, follow other sex workers. There's so many Discord channels that you can join.
So many.
If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Vixen Temple blog. Hit me up and I could send you some Discord chats that you can join. And there's also Facebook pages that I'm in that have obviously names like group Bible sessions. We love Jesus, but it's actually sex workers.
Yes.
So if you want to add me on Twitter and reach out to me, I'll make a link of all these places that you can join, and come to me and I'll send you those. But definitely join Twitter. There's a great community of sex workers on Twitter, and the censorship laws on Twitter aren't as strong, so it's a lot easier to get away with more things. So I'd say Twitter.
Twitter's great.
Follow other sex workers, and go from there. Definitely, though, if you're new to the industry, Heidi, my welcome. Connecting with other sex workers is the safest option. So very proud of you for doing that.
Exactly. And of course, listener, if you are listening at this moment, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to share the Discord group that I am in, as well as some of the other Facebook groups. We just ask that you please adhere to the rules in Facebook so we don't get shut down. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Again, don't share it with people that aren't sex workers. Be very picky about who you share it with, and yeah, please don't get us deleted.
Don't get us deleted.
Because we love Jesus. Bible group, yay!
And then we just have one more question here from Instagram, who also wants to remain anonymous. So we will obviously honor that. And
we'll respect that.
Yes, this person is brand new to full service sex work, and their question is, in the really limited amount of characters that was in Instagram.
Yep.
But they've also messaged me after too, so I can elaborate. What is the best way to hear about others' work experiences under certain management? And I had asked for them to kind of elaborate a little bit when I messaged them back, and I'll just read it out here. I've just started full service sex work and found the hardest thing is finding ways to hear about other workers' experiences, in particular to workplaces like agencies and brothels. I know a lot of it is to do with privacy and not wanting clients and civ people to access certain information, like we mentioned just now. But as someone new to this line of work, I felt all I've wanted to do is read about others' experiences in workplaces so I can figure out good places for me to work. And if that makes sense at all, it does make sense. Thank you. So, Vixen, yeah.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to answer the same way I did the previous one. I think the best way to do it is to join these Discord group chats and sex work communities where I'm in so many pages on Facebook and Discord where it's literally just to talk about clubs and your experiences there. So it's speaking with other sex workers who have worked at these places, because if you speak directly to the management, of course they're going to up-talk. The best way to find out what management is really like is to speak to the workers. And yes, you are new, so you might not know many workers. So again, I'm gonna suggest for you to gather a community, join communities, join sex work communities on the internet. Again, hit us both up and we can invite you to our groups. And just ask around. I again, do not go to the managers themselves. Ask the workers; they'll be brutally fucking honest with you.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then you can pick the best club.
Yes. And I guess my advice for you, listener, keep listening to this podcast. There's so many great podcasts that you can literally listen to all the different accounts of different worker experiences, different types of sex workers, different areas and regions you might be in. So I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I mean, that's is literally what my podcast is about. So
I was gonna say, I was like, girl, it's your podcast. You toot your own damn horn as much as you want. Toot it damn loud too. Toot it right in my face.
I love you.
Thanks, I'm a Leo. I'm here to hype my friends up.
That's it for questions, Vixen. But before I let you go, where can we all find you?
Yes, please come find me. So I am on Instagram, vixentemple.666, Twitter @vixentemple_blog, and then you can just go onto my link tree and all of my other YouTube channels, podcasts, blog, it's all there. So yeah, follow me on Twitter @vixentemple_blog. Look up my link tree. If you want to see me naked, you can join my fansly. I make cosplay porn. I make porn for the queer gays. At least I try to. I'm trying to overcome my internalized male gaze. So yeah, I make queer for the porn gays. I make porn for the queer gays. I have a podcast where I talk about sex work.
Yeah.
I have a blog where I talk about sex work. And I have an Instagram where I talk about sex work and myself and my cat. Lots of cat photos. So if you like cats, follow me there. But yeah, that's my work. And please check out my YouTube channel, because you can check out Bruce, the strip club customer. You love to hate him. Please check out Bruce. You love to hate him.
You have to subscribe to that. I'm so excited for a good laugh after.
Yes, please do. I'm excited. Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. This was really, really fun. And thank you to everyone listening. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
You are so very welcome, Vixen. It was a pleasure having you on. Thank you again for sharing all of your expertise, your wealth of knowledge, and just like telling the world how amazing the New Zealand model is, and we're all envious, and we all just hope one day that where I am in Canada, we hope that we can adopt something that is similar to the model.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too. If any country can copy us, it's got to be Canada. Come on, Canada.
Come on.
Come on. We believe in ya. You got this.
And for everyone else listening, it's new episodes every single Sunday at midnight Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to like, rate, share, review, and maybe rate me 5 stars on Apple. Subscribe. Get at me with comments or any feedback you may have, good or bad. And I will catch everyone in for another episode next week. Thanks so much, Vixen.
Thank you. Aroha nui.
You're listening to Strip by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, artwork by Maria Bellandarama, music by Ted D, and photography by Ian